Famcast Media, bitch.
So I just got in the house from shoveling some snow, and, well, I heard some very shocking and very sad news. Good morning, demons and demonesses. Just had a blizzard struck my state and just got done shoveling snow for about 2.5 hours, so my hands are frozen solid. I'm still pretty cold. So I'll be filming this, in my coat as I warm up. As you can see, it's kind of unzipped too because I was breaking a sweat. Like I said, my hands are very, very cold. But many of you probably already know about Tulsi Gabbard. Now, for those who live under a rock or don't pay much attention to politics, Tulsi Gabbard, she was running for president in the 2020 election. Many people, saw her as, kind of a progressive. She believed in, UBI. She believed in Medicare for all. She wasn't exactly like Bernie Sanders, but she had enough of his policy positions to be considered a progressive. And she called Kamala Harris out on her bullshit, basically made Kamala Harris look like a fool.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way. The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who are on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
And she gained a lot of popularity in the during the primary. Didn't quite win as many states because her name recognition isn't very high, but she did quite well. I mean, for someone that was running for president for the first time. I think she also served in the military as well, so much respect for that. I want to thank her for her service. But just recently, she did something that made me lose all respect for her. Now, I know that she had a past, back in like the early 2000s, she was anti-LGBT. Then she switched and became pro-LGBT, and now this happened. Apparently, she's working on a bill that will prevent transgender people from participating in athletics. Now, I have the article pulled up right here, so let's read through this and see what's going on. Now, the headline reads, "For her final act, Tulsi Gabbard is promoting a bill that threatens trans women in sports." Well, problem I have with this article title right here, it doesn't just affect trans women. This affects basically everyone within the LGBT community, trans men as well as non-binary and intersex people. But I don't want to get too nitpicky, so let's read this article because I have a lot to say about this and a lot to say about, trans people and the athletic world as well. While she might be ending her final term in Congress in just several short weeks, former presidential candidate and Representative Tulsi Gabbard partnered up with Representative Mark Wayne Mullen to introduce a new bill before she says goodbye. And it has a deeply transphobic twist, H.R. 8932, entitled the Protect Women's Sports Act, seeks to limit women's collegiate sports programs to only people assigned female at birth. Title IX was designed to give women and girls an equal chance to succeed, including in sports, allowing biological males to compete in women's sports diminishes that equality and takes away from the original intent of Title IX, Gabbard said in a statement. But this is only the latest attempt to prevent transgender athletes from competing in sports. According to their true genders as opposed to their gender assigned at birth, or what Gabbard has referred to as biological sex. In September, Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler paired up with Tom Cotton and several other senators to propose another transphobic bill, the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. That bill similarly aimed to make it a violation of Title IX protections for any educational institution that receives federal funds to allow transgender women to participate in women's sports. Accordingly, a law that bans trans athletes from participating in school sports also passed in Idaho. However, a preliminary injunction was granted to stop the bill from doing irreversible harm. In June, the Supreme Court also decided that under Civil Rights Act, discrimination on the basis of gender identity is classified along sex discrimination. Akin to Loeffler's bill, Gabbard's new bill introduced also would make it a violation for schools that receive federal funding to permit a person whose biological sex at birth is male to participate in an athletic program or activity that is designed for women or girls. If it were to become law, it would make it impossible for trans women to play women's sports. So far, advocates have come out in droves to denounce the harm that the Protect Women's Sports Act would do. I dare say that women's sports may benefit from actual protections like resources, equal pay, training support. Stop weaponizing your fear of transness to hurt all women, said Chase Strangio, an ACLU lawyer and trans advocate. High school students shouldn't have to pick between medically necessary care or the ability to take in part in activities at school. Whether that's sports, a marching band, or AV club, tweeted Parker Moley in a thread about why the ruling's effects could be so negative. What is perhaps just as alarming is the fact that Gabbard may be the only technical Democrat to promote anti-trans legislation like this. Though it would actually come as a little surprise, when Gabbard first ran for president on the Democratic ticket, the politician drew ire from Democrats for her former denouncement of LGBTQ rights. In the early 2000s, Gabbard called those seeking to legalize civil unions homosexual extremists. She also promoted conversion therapy and boasted about working for the Alliance for Traditional Marriage, an anti-gay organization run by her father. Until 2004, she both voted against and lobbied against same-sex marriage in her home state of Hawaii, though she's since shifted her positions on LGBTQ rights, including the fact that she signed a brief supporting a challenge to the Defense of Marriage Act in 2013. Her rhetoric and past choices have continued to be criticized. When she announced her run for president in 2019, she told CNN, "I regret the positions I took in the past and the things that I said. I'm grateful for those in the LGBTQ community who have shared their aloha with me throughout my personal journey." While many Gabbard supporters, if they still exist, have stressed she's moved away from her homophobic roots over the years, the introduction of this bill doesn't help that cause at all. In fact, it only cements her as being an anti-LGBTQ rights advocate. At the end of the day, Gabbard's choice to make one of her last acts as a national politician a transphobic swan song, which would deprive trans people of their autonomy, only reveals who she truly is and who she has been all along. You know, this is one of those situations where, you ever heard the quote, either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. And that's exactly what Tulsi Gabbard is. Like I said, when she was, I think she was only, this is something that I don't understand about Tulsi Gabbard. All right, how the hell did you even get elected as a fucking Democrat, and then end up being like one of the most homophobic pieces of shit ever? Like, this is fucking ridiculous. Now, my thing is this, and this is something that I hear a lot when it comes to, transgender people competing in sports. And it's not just women's sports, it's also men's sports as well, because, trans men face a lot of discrimination, and I'm not going to put their struggle on the back burner too. All right? So, my thing is this. All right, everyone wants to play this stupid-ass argument saying, oh, well, trans people should have an unfair advantage because of testosterone and bone density and this and that and the other. But the thing is that they ignore the science behind it. Now, I have a friend of mine, she's also, an independent artist. She does, woodworking and things like that. Before that, she used to be a Muay Thai fighter. All right, now, prior to her transitioning, she had a lot of, muscle mass. When she got on hormones, the hormones decreased her muscle mass and also decreased her testosterone levels. So technically, she's at a disadvantage. So I mean, and this is something that like a lot of trans athletes have discussed. The hormone treatments actually decrease your muscle mass and decrease your production of testosterone. And at some places, you actually have less testosterone than a natural cis woman. So this whole argument that they have an unfair advantage, it's total fucking bullshit. And another thing, this also affects cis women too. Remember Caster Semenya? I think she was like an Olympic athlete. She's cis, and her body, and she naturally produces testosterone. And you know what they did to her? And this is fucking ridiculous. They're forcing her to take testosterone blockers. So, and that's the whole thing about the sports world. The sports world, these people really make no fucking sense. These transphobic people make no fucking sense. There's the whole idea of, testosterone and having an unfair advantage. It's a fucking double standard either way you put it. And this is why I'm principled on this, all right? If you're trans, you should compete with the gender that you identify as. If you're a trans woman, compete with the woman. If you're a trans man, compete with the men. If you're non-binary, I'm not sure how that one goes. And that's what one of the things I don't like about these bills, because they leave non-binary and intersex people out of the picture, and they should be included. If you're non-binary and you want to participate in athletics, then there should be nothing in their road that stops you. If you're intersex and you want to participate in the athletic field, there should be nothing in the way that stops you. This is basically what these bills are saying is, the athletic world is only meant for people that are born cisgender, which is total fucking bullshit. And for Tulsi Gabbard to support this bill, to side with fucking Republicans and support this, fucking disgusting. A way for her to, shit on her entire fucking political career. And I kind of feel embarrassed because, when she was running, I was rooting for her. I wanted her to be successful. I want to see a woman eventually get in the White House one day. I just didn't want it. I don't want it to be Hillary. Don't want it to be fucking Kamala Harris. Someone like Nina Turner or Cori Bush or Michaela Wilkes. And the thing is, fucking Tulsi Gabbard was on my list of one of the many women that I would love to see in the White House. And she fucking let me down. I was rooting for her, and then she does this shit like this. It's like the fucking Tyra Banks clip.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? Learn something from this. When you go to bed at night, you lay there and you take responsibility for yourself, because nobody's going to take responsibility for you.
And another thing that I want to add about the whole transgender competing in sports thing is that, let's say this law actually does get put into place. Do you really think that conservative Christians and the religious fundamentalists aren't going to have a problem with it? They say they want trans women to compete with men, but I guarantee you they're going to be upset with that too. You want to know why? Because look at the situation that's going on in Texas with Greg Abbott. Now, there was a story. It was about a trans man. All right. Now, he like I said, he was born female, but he transitioned to male. All right, now, he wanted to wrestle with the men, but because his birth certificate said that he was born female, they forced him to wrestle with the girls. Now, let me tell you what happened. All right, he won. He kicked every one of those girls' asses. And you want to know what conservative Christians did? They still fucking complained. This is the law that they supported. That's what they said. They say if you're born female, you have to compete with other females. They literally had this trans man compete against women simply because of the fact that he was born, he's a female to male trans person. He won, and they're still fucking complaining. They were booing him and shit like that. And I'm like, what are you booing him for? He's playing by the rules that you fucking set up. And now that you don't like the fucking outcome, you're still fucking upset? These people, like I said, there's no reasoning with these people. You know, if a trans person wins against the gender that they identify as, they say it's fucking unfair. If a transgender person wins against the person that the gender that they don't identify as, they still say it's fucking unfair. These people have no fucking principles. They're just willing to flip-flop, go all over the fucking place. I just don't understand it with trans. That's the thing. Transphobic people, you can't fucking reason with them. You play by the rules, they get upset. You don't play by the rules, they still get fucking upset. I'm just up to here with all this transphobic shit, man. Like, this just really pisses me the fuck off. All right? Let them play the sports. If a trans woman wants to compete with women, let her compete. If a trans man wants to compete with other men, let him compete. If a non-binary person wants to get involved in the athletic field, or an intersex person, or whoever it is, let them fucking play. I don't know. I don't even know what else to say about Tulsi Gabbard either. I just hope I never ever have to see her again. She ought to just stay out of the limelight. You know, she's young. I know it's early for her to retire, but I can't really picture her doing anything else. Not unless she's gonna grift and switch over and join the Republican Party, which she might do, or she might take the corporate route and, you know, become like a spokesperson for PragerU and get paid by fucking Turning Points USA and all these other, you know, think tanks and all these, you know, align herself with all these religious conservatives and whatnot. It's a shame that she had to do this shit to herself. All the people that supported her are now her worst enemies now. And like I said, if this is what you believe in, and if you truly are against, you know, trans people competing in sports, or if you're against trans rights in general, you're no friend of mine. You are my worst enemy, and I want nothing to do with you. But that's all I have to say about this. Rest in peace, Tulsi Gabbard. Rest in peace to your political career. Rest in peace to your fucking social life. You're done, bud, and I'm washing my hands of you. All right, you guys stay safe, stay warm, stay metal, hail Satan, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.